All right. Hello, 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 everybody. Hello, and thank you so much for joining us today for our Saturday gathering underground, y'all. We are underground. We are in our safe space. We are blessed. We are alive. We are whole. Thank you so much for being here. Um, as stated earlier, my name is Art Beetleman Jr. I serve as founder and curator of this space. Thank you so much to our YouTube audience who is joining us today for our live service. If you are not subscribed to the channel, please do subscribe to our YouTube channel, like, comment, and do all those things. You can also share the message and the things that we will talk about today. Today is going to be just a little different as far as a formal message, because I am going to talk just around this cultural kind of moment that we are in, which is Father's Day and also Juneteenth. Um, it's a powerful thing to experience a holiday, I would say, like a Juneteenth. I would even argue that it was probably more powerful when the public was not aware. I feel that maybe when it was just us, who knew, perhaps there was a particular type of substance. But as I think more, I can't help but think beyond. I always stop at the ways in which an empire is pressed to commodify revolutions. And this has been a thing that has been coming up in many of my conversations with colleagues and friends and all of these different things that we're dealing with in reflection about the world and politics and all those things. And one of the things that has just been recurring and coming up is getting at the root of trying to dismantle a powerful system that consistently oppresses people. I'm not saying that the goal is to just overthrow all things and everything is destructive and we're all going to do it. No, I don't want to. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is when we see violence happening and we recognize violence as a thing present in someone's life, in someone's reality, in someone's existence, however you want to frame it, wherever violence is, and we know that a system is behind it, the biggest question that we all want to know is, how do we fix this? Not just for ourselves, but for the people that we know that are actively being affected by these issues. And I'm speaking broadly, but we all know the isms and the phobias and the issues that are present. I mean, you can just call them and name them out, and we'll be here forever with a long list of all of the stuff, right? But one of the things is also, I think we are not only actively dealing presently with the issues that are pervading, right, like our communities and abusing us and causing us to be oppressed, but we are also always, especially those who live on the underside of privilege, we are also always actively negotiating our proximity to power. That is, and I don't care who you talk to or who you read or who you listen to, that is a reality for every American. And I'm gonna say, and I can generalize this for every American. Well, maybe not every American, because some Americans can't actually have a cell phone. But the very mere fact that we have access to these things, right? This telecommunication, like the fact that we even have computers to be on Zoom, right? Is we are approximate closer to power than someone else. So there's always someone else, especially when you're living here. There are many people, though, who do not even have that type of access living here, and they have it worse off, right? There are nuances. Most of us, though, I would say those of us who have the privilege of even getting up to put on clothes and to sit at a computer and to even have an hour out of the day to be able to worship and to do things virtually like this, right? We are all actively dealing with our proximity to power, right? And so one of the things is engaging this logic of freedom and carcerality. This was a conversation that Jeremy and I were having a couple of weeks ago. And he had posed to me that even when Paul, if I had taken the text, I probably would have read from Paul, where he talks about, because this is how Jeremy's writing about it, but read from Paul and how Paul describes his enslavement in thinking only in terms of his relationship to being incarcerated. So he's free, but only in a response, or he wants to be free, but only in a response to being incarcerated. And so the reality of the situation is there's a larger logic that we are always engaging, even when we talk about the word freedom. When we think about the word freedom, when we think about the word, when we are actively screaming and singing and talking about these things and voicing, we are juxtaposing what can be to what is. But the larger logic is flawed, because what we actually hope to see is a world beyond the logic of freedom and carcerality. The truth of the matter is there is a way to exist where freedom is not the goal, humanity is the goal. The idea that we can all actually live and breathe and exist without having to negotiate ourselves between power and no access, right? We moving beyond this logic is actually the goal. And this is why, this is the critique that I will offer about a Juneteenth. Not the celebration of our ancestors knowing, being the last to know that they were not enslaved anymore, that they could be free, right? I'm gonna get in trouble for saying it, but I'm gonna say it. That is not actually Juneteenth. Like, the celebration around it, right, is not Juneteenth. Not the cultural thing that we're doing. That is not a celebration for them. That is America's way. And I'm telling you why. Because now what they recognized is, when it is that the revolution is able to celebrate a moment, if the system can buy its way into the celebration and figure out a way to sustain its relevance, it will commodify the revolution so that it loses its power and the substance that was originally there, so that it maintains its relevance. And as a result, these cultural celebrations and holidays and things that we rally around, especially around slavery topics, therefore does not hold the weight that it once held when it was just a private celebration within ourselves. It's kind of like when, and this is actually very, very synonymous with what I was writing this weekend. It's kind of like when in the 50s and 60s, and this happened to James Brown, Little Richard, all of them, right? What would happen is they would record their songs, and then a record company, a white-owned record company, would come around and have a white person to sing the songs, because many of the radio stations were not, they were obviously segregated. Many of the radio stations would not play Black artists. Obviously, at that time, you're talking about the 50s and 60s. So they would have the white singers just destroy these magical masterpieces, and then they would take those copies of the tape and pass it out to radio stations, and then that's how the song would become popular. So Tutti Frutti on Rudy, right, by Little Richard, is not, the white people did not hear his original version. They didn't hear that until later. But somebody else, a white person, recorded it and put it out and made it popular. Same thing happened to Chuck Berry. Same thing happened to James Brown. So they're of course, and we know this, they take the songs and they do. But what happens when they take the songs? They take the songs and all of the substance just drains out of it, because they don't sing from the same place. You know what I'm saying? And so when they start commodifying our celebrations, they don't celebrate from the same place, because they don't endure from the same place. So you cannot celebrate. You can't sing. You can't join me in singing a song with the same substance if you don't have the same experience, which is why the commodification of these experiences is dangerous, and our memory will always be the greatest gift that we have. That's my first point. Our memory will always be the greatest gift. Why? Because we are actively engaging and trying to approximate ourselves to power. That's just something that we have to do. We're born into the system. We are born and bred to be capitalists. We are born and bred to buy and exchange and trade. We are born and bred to eat the way that we do, and to drink and to sleep the way that we do. We are born and bred to live. You and I I are actively always engaging in some type of lived resistance in our reality, because we are never going to be fully extracted from the system that we are enduring and that we're in while we are alive, as long as the system is running. Right. And so obviously that's the point of the question, why we're wondering, how do we get rid of the problems that exist in the system? Because of course, yes, I still want my luxurious pieces of this, and I still want to drive this car, and I still want to have this house. That's me measuring and approximating myself to power. Unfortunately, right, that's just something I feel like we have to be honest about negotiating. I don't, you know, when folks kind of walk around, especially, I mean, some people actually genuinely do it, but when most folks walk around and pretending like, oh, I don't need that, and oh, in their mind, give them the right little cookie, and they'll, you know, like, there's the temptation. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that it's innately within us, but the temptation, of course, is always going to be there when it's time to go have fun, and when we're hanging out and stuff, and you're seeing these opportunities that you can engage and you can celebrate. You're going to want to. I'm going to go to a Juneteenth celebration today, right? I am not anti the celebration, but I think because we are often always negotiating our approximation to power, we quickly, when stuff is commodified, we can be really quick to forget the original intent of the revolution. And that is our greatest gift, but also our greatest challenge. What white slave owners have done, what white record producers in those days did, what white ministers do now and today, they buy the revolution and then they call it God and say, God said we can, or God said this is, and their stamp of approval still in deep in the knee deep in the psyche of our African-American friends, families, brothers and sisters, because we're ingrained to think that way. Deep in the psyche, something triggers, and we have to shake ourselves of needing the approval of whiteness to continue to celebrate. This is why resistance during slavery was so powerful. They obviously endured so much, right? Our ancestors were brought over on a ship, and then on ships, and then having to adjust to new lands and all this, and figuring out languages and negotiating and trying to survive while constantly attacked. These folks were not being just like marched around. They were under attack. They were under attack nonstop, pressure, attack. There was no liberation, no freedom, no opportunity to move beyond that. Somebody just rang my doorbell. I don't know who that was. But they are under constant attack. And the problem, right? Well, let me say the revolution and the freedom element of what they were able to do was they were able to sing songs that the slave masters could not understand. And let me tell you something, that will always be the genius of our revolution. As soon as they can grasp it, as soon as they've had a chance to put their hands in the pot, as soon as they have had a chance to convince us of the ways we can make more capital, as soon as they have lured us into the possibilities of a future where we get to possess things and items, and we climb up the ladder of social mobility and social equity, right? As soon as they're able to understand what we're doing, but when they don't understand what's going on, that's how we maintain our power. They sang songs in code, and their voices were able to maneuver and move around notes that their slave masters and their enemies could not hear or interpret. Why? Because there's a jazz moving freedom that kind of flows within the psyche and the heart and the soul of Black people, so much so that in order for a white person to get it, they would have to calculate it. But you cannot calculate the Spirit of God. What moves and breathes in us freely is incalculable. You cannot place a number on God, which is why I said you cannot buy the revolution and call it God. As soon as the revolution is bought, it's no longer God, because God cannot be bought. Am I making sense? James Cone says God is black because God identifies with the least. God as slave master is not God at all. You cannot have the land and apologize for stealing it. No, you don't get to sit on the land that you stole, apologize to the people you stole it from for stealing it, and still keep the land. What sense does that make? Not in the abundant kingdom of God. Right? This is the other reason why we have to be so, I got so much to, this is the other reason why we have to be so conscious when we start celebrating things like Juneteenth and we allow the system to also engage in that celebration. This is happening all over Harvard, y'all. It's so crazy. Like, no disrespect to anybody. I don't know if they'll ever see this, whatever it is. I'm just speaking the truth. The university, with its long history of slavery and all of this stuff, the university has now adopted, first of all, we have an entire day off, me negotiating my approximation of power. We have a day off on Monday, and guess what I'm going to do? Take my day. Can I tell the truth? We have a whole day off. And there are several programs around this celebration of Juneteenth. But they don't understand that all their participation has essentially done is created a commodified opportunity. Now people are going to be able to make money off of the shirts. And you can, and we're going to have cookouts, and there are parties going to be thrown, and so many different things are going to happen around this idea, this collective thing of celebrating the last slaves to ever find out that they were free. When the truth is, that's no celebration at all, because they shouldn't have been enslaved in the first place. And y'all don't like when I say it, but it's true. Ooh. We're getting away from the point. The point is, they should not have been enslaved at all. And now you want us to celebrate this apology. Oh, well, now that we've changed the world and we fixed it, and now that it's time to celebrate the fact that we fixed our problem. No, we are still dealing with what was at the root. And to make matters worse, you have now commodified the revolution by joining the celebration. Because you understand now, you get it, and you're a part of the conversation. Oh, but when you don't get it, that's when you feel left out, because whiteness is occupied with centering itself. Whiteness is different from white people. White people, meaning there are people in the world. There are Black people who ascribe to whiteness. Whiteness is a logic, a framework, a way of living where I said that centers itself above all other things. If it is not at the center of the discussion, the center of the table, the center of the topic, if it is not being served by everybody around it, it's not pleased. That's whiteness. And so we have to hold our memory. I'm just going to preach all of it. We have to hold our memory, y'all. Remember what the real intent and point of the stuff that we are hoping to get done. Remember it. Do not forget it, because you will get, the devil knows how to use desperation. Because guess what's going to happen? You're living in this system. As I said, we're always often negotiating our proximity to power. I would say to whiteness, always negotiating our proximity, right? What's going to happen? There's going to come a point where you're going to need something. The devil knows how to use desperation, just as the system does. And when you need a job, you'll be blinded by your needs and not the conditions that shape the reality you're in. The focus should be, we need to fix this system so that ain't nobody got to ask for no job. But when you're wrapped up in the system, oh, I'm gonna just go get this job because we gotta eat. Yes. Who would not take immediate relief off of the pressure, right? When your family's in trouble, you will do whatever you gotta do to protect them. If they said we're gonna lynch them tomorrow, as so long as you don't do this. You ain't gonna go do whatever it is that you're about to do. Why? Because you understand that you have a commitment. And I know that there's so many scholars that have written about this. I can't remember the actual topic or the name of the discussion, but I was having some conversation with my friends. It's just so irrelevant that I'm talking about it, side note like that. But anyway, you have a commitment to your family at base. That's also a part of your natural human negotiations. You want to protect them. You have a responsibility to them, especially if they have always done the same for you. But our memory is what's most important, because the goal is not to better the conditions we're in, but to create a world where all of us are completely human. I was watching Malcolm X the other day, and that was the selling point that he was entering in. He was also on some more radical stuff, but he was heading into a more inclusive way of thinking about solving problems towards the end of his life, because he had what he felt like was a human experience when he went overseas on his pilgrimage to Mecca. Now, we're not Muslim, right? We ascribe to the notions of Christianity, but in the same ways, we are not just looking for a way to practice our religion better. We are looking for a way to be human, completely human, free, completely free. Then we used to say that? Whole, completely whole, without negotiations of our identities, just living in the world and knowing that we are okay, without the threat of knowing that my skin color is a problem to you. Right? I don't want to, I hate walking down the street sometimes in Boston, baby. They look at me like I am crazy. You know what I'm saying? And now, you know, I realize it and I see it and I understand like what it means, like when somebody move out the way, or when it ain't just COVID. You was gonna do that if it wasn't COVID. Right? But smiles and being, no, that is the seat of the devil. It is. It is, because you're going to go right back around, and in your mind, your logic is going to tell you that there's something tragically wrong about me and that your safety was threatened when I walked by. And you want to still celebrate Juneteenth. I'm just telling y'all like it is. I don't know what came over me today. Thank you, Lord. Okay, I got to wrap this up. How do we press on? How do we continue? How do we live? And I see y'all right in the chat. I don't know what you're saying because I don't have it up. But how do we press on? And some of y'all may disagree with me. Listen, I love the fact that we can have the conversation. Okay, I'm not gonna take it personal, nothing like that. All of that, it's nothing but love here. But I have to state the present reality. I gotta make us aware of it. That is my job. If I didn't, I wouldn't be a prophet in this way. This is what God is requiring me. This is what I believe God is requiring me to do. There's a breakthrough on the other side of your awareness, not your relief. What you become aware of will lead you to the breakthrough. What you have opened your eyes to see in real time will lead you to the breakthrough, not an immediate relief under pressure. And I think that is what commodification does. It highlights an opportunity for us to celebrate a moment of progress, when the truth of the matter is the real celebration should be when we come into an awareness that the entire structure is flawed, that there is no real relief.
Say that again. I'm sorry. Say that one more time. It will come when?
It will come when you become, I don't even know how I said it. It will come when you become aware that the system is flawed in its entirety and that there is no relief.
In your awareness and not your relief.
That. The breakthrough is on the other side of your awareness, not your relief.
That part. Say it again.
Your breakthrough is on the other side of your awareness, not your relief.
One more time.
One time for the folk in the back. Your breakthrough is on the other side of your awareness not your relief. It means that when you become aware of the truth, that's where the celebration is. When you become aware of those realities, that's where the celebration is. Not in, oh, here's a few little dollars to go and do. That's you getting immediate relief. It's kind of like a high. You get an immediate relief from the pressure for just the moment, but tomorrow you're back under it. It's kind of the same logic around self-care. When we talked about this, I think we talked about this 2 weeks ago, talking about the logics of self-care, and folks, talking about, oh, well, you got to have self-care and you got to take care of yourself and you got to make sure that this sermon is good. Thank y'all so much for being here. You got to take care of yourself and you got to make sure you have, time to take. No. Why aren't we critiquing the structures around us that make it impossible to care for yourself? The possibility of caring for yourself is something we should all innately be doing anyway. We should not be having conversations to remind us to take care of ourselves. You should not need a schedule you should not at all need a clock reminding you to eat today. You working that much that you can't eat? As I said, I was watching the Malcolm X movie the other day, and y'all know Angela Bassett was Betty Shabazz, played Betty Shabazz, and Denzel Washington played Malcolm X. And when she first met him in the scene that Spike Lee set up, the scene says that she said, "Brother Minister, one has to wonder if you know what Harriet Tubman did in between her routes to taking the slaves, to freeing the slaves." And he said, "Well, no, sister, I don't know." And she leaned up close to him. She said, "She ate." And it's so crazy because he had been working so hard. He had been just exhausting all his energy to build these temples and to be the one leading the nation of Islam. And just that small little nugget, she had to remind him, you got to eat, sir. You got to take care of it. But I should not. The sad part is that I'm having to remind you. You should not be under that much pressure that you forget to eat. So no, self-care is not a project that I want to engage. Self-care is something I want to innately be a part of my daily life and lived experience. But in order for that to happen, something in the world I live in has to be different. All right. Always remember why you started the revolution. That will always bring you back. Sing the songs you sang when you first started. Remember the voices that you heard when you first started. Keep locked on the sound and the tonality, and remember to keep those things sacred, because those are our gifts. Those are the things that make us genius. Those are the things that will also push us to liberation. We will sing our way into freedom because those are songs they don't understand. Whatever they understand, they'll buy it, commodify it, and resell it back to us. But that which they don't understand is our greatest weapon. When we sing our songs will be the mystery of what they don't get. And because they can't connect with it, we continue to move on, and they'll always try to play catch up. But we also can't hand them the revolution. Disguise, lies, deceit, and smiles and niceness would develop a resistance to your experience. And so they will give us holidays, and we have to work twice as hard when this happens, when we experience this commodification, right? We have to work twice as hard to remember why we can't forget. Because we're always actively trying to negotiate our proximity to power. Because if we dare to remember, then we're dangerous. If we dare to remember, if we have it, we'll always move forward. We'll always be dangerous, and they will never catch up. So we called it the death of freedom because the reality is we have to get beyond even the logic of freedom and carcerality to imagine what ought, right? Versus what is. And that's how we maintain our freedom, that's how we maintain our humanity. Because the goal is humanness, not freedom. Right. Yeah, this was beautiful, 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 beautiful. I invite you to live. Beautiful moment. I invite you to live in an awareness that live in an awareness that gives rise or gives access to your humanity. Always consciously thinking about in what ways am I being made human, and in what ways am I actually being commodified? In what ways are they putting a price tag on my life, versus in what ways is this making me human, a better life giver? And we'll always, remain. God says, I come that you may have life and life more abundantly. In what ways does your work or your experience generate life? Keep that in mind, and that will always be the genius. And so I'm praying for you. I'm praying for you. I'm praying for your stamina and your safety and your sanity, and that God's grace will continue to rest in you and on you and bless you beyond your wildest imagination. Not in a monetary or that we will be taken care of, but not in excess of things and possessions, but that we will have peace and wholeness in our humanity, our humanness, the way that we were made. We will live in that, in truth and in spirit, and worship God in the same way. Praying on your behalf that you will have this life. In the mighty and matchless name of Jesus. Amen. Amen. Listen, my YouTube friends, y'all, okay? Thank y'all so much for joining us today. I want to wish you a wonderful, wonderful weekend, and hope that you will come see us again very soon. All right. See us next Saturday. We'll be back here to do the same thing. So enjoy your holidays. If you're celebrating